千里之行，始于足下. A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together. Welcome to Tao Talks with Derek Lin, where we take a deep dive into the Daodejing by Lao Zi. As ever, I would like to extend a warm welcome to one and all. Thank you for joining us. I want to invite you to center your thoughts and direct your attention to this moment in time, to the here and now, to be fully present and mindfully aware as we all ready ourselves for this sacred process in the Tao with one another. This is a slide that I showed you previously about the enlightenment, the awakening, the realization of the sixth patriarch Huang. He was the sixth patriarch of the Zen Buddhism tradition. And when he became enlightened, he was surprised and shocked about the nature of you and me in the deepest part of our being, the self-nature part. And so he exclaimed the 5 things that surprised him about self-nature. I am going to focus on just 2 of them for our explanation. The first one, how unexpected that self-nature is originally not born or extinguished. This is going to tie in to our discussion on you and me and everyone being immortal spiritual entities. An immortal spiritual entity is neither created nor can it be extinguished. And it happens to be a description of the Tao itself and a description of the Tao in you and me that is inextricably part of us. So we'll talk about that. Then the other part that I want to focus on is how unexpected that self-nature originally is not moved or shaken. This specifically means the self-nature is eternally constant. Eternally constant, therefore not moved or shaken, meaning constant and changeless. You, I'm talking about you, the individual point of consciousness that is you, will never stop being you, no matter how the world or existence or reality itself changes. So these are the 2 most important things that tie in to the next part. And it's about the eternal self-nature going through multiple lifetimes. So let me first start out by covering Eastern and Western paradigms. In the West, we're used to the traditional view we've seen, whether we believe or not, we've seen the idea that the soul, the human soul, lives this life in this world, and then the soul goes on to heaven or hell eternally. So the existence is eternal, yes. So in the West, we also talk about the immortality of the soul, no problem there. But the concept, the Eastern concept of self-nature is different. So the Eastern concept is that the self-nature refines itself lifetime after lifetime. So these are the 2 different concepts. You can see that most people are more familiar with the former than the latter. And today is going to be all about the latter and the reasoning that leads up to it. In the Tao, this is an important term, Daoli. Daoli is a term not just in the Tao, but also in everyday spoken communication, modern Mandarin as well as ancient Chinese. 2 characters, Tao, you already know that character. It means the way, it means the path, it's the root. Li means reasoning, rationality. Dao Li together means that there's a reason, there's a rational explanation, there's a reasoning process for believing what you believe. So this is not something that requires that you take anything on faith. You just have to work through the reasoning process to see why it makes sense. And this is going to tie into ideas like how likely is something to be true. We know that we can never be absolutely certain of everything, but within the uncertainties of the world, the ancient sages have figured out what we can be reasonably sure about. There's the Dao Li. What is reasonable? What is the rational explanation? So let's go through the steps. First, you and I know we are conscious beings. How do you know that? You just know that. If we were to ask this question, how do we know we're conscious beings? What is the answer? The answer is by asking this very question, by reflecting on this question, it is only a conscious being that is capable of doing that. As I'm asking this question to you right now and you're thinking about it, the reason why you can think about it and wonder about it at all is the telltale sign that you are a conscious being. Now, we have all seen programmatic chess players. This could be like a computer software, like a chess game. We play against the computer. The computer, the chess player, it can be very good. It's got a very strong algorithm for playing chess. People used to think that a game like chess would only be reserved for human intellect. Now we see that artificial intelligence can outdo human intellect at playing chess. But as far as right now, that chess playing algorithm cannot contemplate questions about its own actions. Why am I playing chess? Is this the best use of my time? What is the meaning of playing chess? What am I trying to accomplish? Who indeed am I? What indeed am I? The self-reflective questions are the sole province of a conscious entity. This is the reason why I showed you that diagram about the different levels of existence and how the Tao is reflected among all the different levels. By being able to reflect a mental activity, that is the absolute proof of you being a conscious entity. And as conscious entities, we know that we are more than just our physical bodies. I think everybody knows this, but let's talk about that. Let's take a look to see how we already know that no matter how we age, no matter how the body changes, we're still us. You're still you, no matter how your body changes. You can be sick, you can become healthier, you can become more fit, you can kind of let yourself go physically. No matter how your body changes, you're still you. The consciousness that is you is existing independent of the physical body. The Tao sages would actually push that even further, push the envelope to the edge to say that the true self is also beyond the mind. Because a lot of times in the West, we think of the mind as the real self. My mind, that's me, my memories that make up who I am. The ancient sages will say, no. Who you are is beyond your mind, your memories. Because just like how your body can change, but you're still you, you can change your mind about anything and still be you. So your mind is not you, you are what is using your mind. Memories, your memories, they don't make up who you are. You can forget things. And indeed, we forget things all the time. We can lose memories. It doesn't matter what you lose. You're still you. This is why the sages teach the true self is beyond the mind. This is part of the Dao Li, rational steps, reasoning process. And indeed, in Zen Buddhism, it's an important topic to separate out your true self, the self nature, and other aspects of you. So the term, a specific term to Zen Buddhism is the original face. There's a Kǒng. What did your face look like before your parents were born? This takes a variety of different forms. Sometimes it is given as, what did you look like before you were born? But it can extend to parents. The whole point is you got to start thinking about yourself as other than what you normally associate with yourself, the body, the mind, memories, etc. So this is why what you're looking at here at the bottom, this is why the concept of self-nature is not exactly like the soul. It's roughly equivalent, but not exactly the same. Okay? So it's all about consciousness. And part of this is something that you can feel intuitively, like, well, I know I'm a conscious being. I just know that. And now the sages are pushing it to its ultimate expression. Please note, science does not yet fully understand consciousness, but there are some things that we can do to already figure out stuff for ourselves. Let's continue this process. We're continuing with Dao Li, that which is rational, reasonable, sensible, the reasoning process. So you, the true self, the self-nature that we're talking about, this remains you no matter what is changed about yourself. We talked about the body, the mind, the memories, etc. And there's more. There's identity, there's name. You can change your name, you're still you. You can change everything about you, where you live, what you wear, doesn't matter. You're still you. None of that is your true self. And this you is also, this concept of you here is something that we can all accept. Even the people, like people in my life who are atheists or agnostic, they may reject the concept of the soul. Like they don't know, they believe that the soul exists. You can disbelieve the existence of the soul, but you have to admit that there is that ineffable you that remains you no matter what. That's step one. Okay, let's go to step two. This you is inextricably linked to the Tao. This is in the West, we talk about God is in you. In the East, we'll say, in Eastern expressions, we may say the Tao is, you are part of the Tao is part of you. And we also say we are linked to one another. At a fundamental level, we are all connected to one another. Well, how is that? So let's talk about the Tao being constant and your true self being constant. A lot of times, we talk a lot about this, the connection between the self and the Tao. This is how we make it real. First of all, the nature of the Tao is change. Let's talk about change for just a moment. The very first book about the Tao is Jing, the book of changes. We have expressions in the West. We say the only thing that doesn't change is change itself. Or we say it in a different way, like change is the eternal constant. Same thing. The only thing that doesn't change is change, because everything's going to change, but the principle of change remains constant. Now, what I want you to do mentally is to draw a straight line connecting you and the Tao, connecting the Tao and change, connecting you and the principle of change. You are change. You cause change. The consciousness that is you is the constant Tao, the eternal Tao, and the eternal principle of change. the you, that is your consciousness, it will never change regardless of all other changes. Next, this you is the only thing that carries over from one lifetime to the next. This is an extension of number two. If you're the one thing that is eternally constant, then you are the only thing that's carrying over from one lifetime to the next. Now here you may say that, well, I haven't really accepted this whole idea of multiple lifetimes yet. That's coming. You are no exception to the cycles of existence. Okay, what are we talking about here? Well, you and I, we can observe nature just as the ancient sages do, and we can see cycles everywhere. We see the heavenly cycles, we see seasonal cycles. In ourselves, we see day and night, we go through the sleep cycle every day. We're familiar with that. So cycles, circular nature of the world, of nature itself, is visible and evident in every direction. Everywhere we look, it's there. So now, let's talk about life and death. No one has absolute certainty about life and death. But what I'll say is that it is far more likely that life and death is the cycles metaphor, the cycles paradigm, just like everything else. The cycles of existence applies to life and death as well. If it doesn't, that would make life and death the only exception to everything that we can see, everything. Why would it be the only exception? And what are the reasons for that exception? How likely is that? The sages look at it and the sages will say, well, it's far more likely that we are all partaking in the cycles of existence ourselves. That's why. Daoli, it must make sense. It has to make sense. It guarantees that it makes sense. Next, this you is the consciousness that learns and perfects itself. Again, this is from observation. We look in nature, we see that nothing is wasted in nature, absolutely nothing. The ancient sages could see this when they observed how animal waste and remains nourish plants, and the plants in turn nourish animals. Nothing goes to waste. The more we learn about science, the more we see this is true. In modern times, we understand how nature wastes absolutely nothing at the molecular or atomic levels. What we burn by fire isn't obliterated, but transformed. Water evaporates into the sky, form clouds, and there's precipitation as rain. Nothing is wasted. The water is not wasted. So what about us? Think about what happens when you go through life. You learn lessons along the way. You incorporate the knowledge of these lessons into wisdom. When you apply the knowledge that you have learned into everyday life, they transform into wisdom, which you can integrate into your being, your essence. Then the wisdom becomes part of you. You've become a better version of yourself, a wiser version of yourself. Nothing is wasted. If at the end of this life, all of that goes to nothing, there's simply a discontinuation, a full stop, then all of that is wasted. All of that will be the only exception that violates everything, literally violates everything we see all around us. Therefore, ancient sages reason, Daoli, it is far more reasonable, far more likely to assume that indeed nothing is wasted. We carry the wisdom with us, and we are no exception to the cycles of existence, we continue on to further refine ourselves with the next set of lessons. This slide that you're looking at here, this is the one slide that lays out the compelling reasons why you are eternal. And death is not the end, because it never ends. So take a look at this. The way everything works in existence, reality itself guarantees that what you do here and now is of the utmost importance. This is why you and I are together in this talk. Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Let us all travel safely so we can meet again. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.